Today I want to do a video on a kind of narrative analysis on Lupin and Castle of Cagliostro. If you're involved in the fandom, you obviously know Cagliostro. You don't even have to really be involved in the fandom to know this movie. Pretty well received, I would say. I think that it's not the most popular Miyazaki movie. Obviously, Miyazaki's a legend. He's done a whole bunch of other movies that are a lot more popular than this. And this was before he gained fame, but you can see a lot of the narrative and animation choices that he uses in this movie. If you are a fan of Lupin, you'll know that Lupin is not necessarily the same character in here that he is in other installments into the franchise, right? Like, he's got a lot of differences, and these differences can be polarizing to the fan base because some people prefer how he originally was, some people prefer how he is now. So what I wanted to do is take a look at this particular Lupin, kind of like the changes that he made to his character, who he is as a person, peel back the layers and see exactly what we're dealing with character-wise. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the IRL reasons as to why Lupin's character changed. The second thing we're going to do is look at the face value characteristics, kind of like the things that you can see from the surface. And then finally, we're going to peel back the layers, maybe look at some psychological reasons, look at some narrative reasons as to why he is the way he is and what his role is in the story. So let's go ahead and get started. So in terms of Miyazaki and how he changed the character, we have to look all the way back to the beginning of the franchise on television and in animation, right? So obviously we know that Monkey Punch, his Japanese name is Kazuhiko Kato, created Lupin as a manga in 1967. This is the very first issue that came out, right? It came out in 1967, and it was running for a couple of years, and it has this underground following, right? Because the humor is not okay. The humor is not the best. It definitely takes a particular kind of person to enjoy it, right? It's really of its times, but it's running. It has a lot of fans. What ends up happening is TMS back in the day is looking at this, and they want to do an animated version of this character, of the whole manga. Basically, they create this pilot film. It's around 12 minutes, and it's just basically the same feel of the manga, same kind of humor, toned down a little bit for TV. And after like 2-ish years of not getting anything, they finally get the go-ahead and get funding for a 23 or 24 episode length anime. So what they do is they get someone named Masaki Osumi to direct it. And Masaki Osumi had a vision where he really wanted to reflect Monkey Punch's original version, right? So those same character traits, those same jokes, that same kind of edge that he has, he wants to put that into the show, right? So he gets put on and he starts directing, and it like almost immediately fails. Like, nobody's watching, because at the time animation was seen as for kids mostly. So to see this kind of adult stuff happening, it's happening in movies obviously, but cartoon wise it's not really clicking. And also it was at a time slot where kids are watching. Your kid gets to see Fujiko naked now, and you can't do anything about her. So obviously the parents are not really vibing with that, and the ratings are bad. So it only takes 2 episodes for TMS to be like, yo, like, Osumi, can you change this? And Osumi's like, no, he really wanted to capture that original version of the character, and he's like giving him hell. He's, no, I don't want to change this. And so he eventually leaves the project, and this is where Miyazaki and Isao Takahata come in. Obviously they're like very popular now, but back in the day when this is happening, they're not that well known, right? So they come in and they start making changes to the character, right? And what happens is this kind of like 10 to 11 episode arc where the character is slowly turning from this kind of like hard-boiled, cynical, self-oriented thief and assassin to more of a Robin Hood figure, right? He's nicer, he's more of a gentleman, and it takes 12 episodes for this to happen because they're like phasing Osumi's vision out and bringing in Miyazaki's vision, right? So around episode 14 is when Miyazaki's vision is in full swing, and the changes that he makes are so that they could get more ratings on the television show, which ends up not working. The show gets canceled anyway. The ratings go up, but it's not by much. But the changes do allow it to be picked up in 1977 for part 2, which is a lot more popular than part 1, or at least at the time. It was like a huge hit. But as far as part 1 is concerned, it ran from 1971 to 1972. And these are like the times where we can see Miyazaki's signatures, right? His love for aircrafts. He has this kindness, this warmth to his shows, and his animation and his characters is what really helps the series to grow forward, right? But at the time, it wasn't able to save it. But this is something that like he likes doing. This is like his signature. This is something that he got from his mom. He's really inspired by his mom. And so he's bringing that into this character, and he's turning it into something that everybody can enjoy, not just lovers of the original manga. Right now, that original version has found its footing now. There's lots of fans that love that original version and they prefer it because it's more in line with the original of what Monkey Punch wanted. But there's also the Cagliostro version, the Miyazaki version, and that one has its following. Apparently Steven Spielberg has said some comments on it, praising it. John Lasseter, he said some things like it has good ratings on IGN and things like that. It's a good direction that he took, right? It's not the most original one in terms of like Monkey Punch, but as far as like the origins of the anime, it's pretty close to the animated version's beginnings, because it was like right there in episode 3 and he made his changes. Yeah, the changes happened and it doesn't work, and part 2 rolls around, and during part 2 we have 2 movies in the Lupin the Third franchise. We have Mystery of Momo and Castle of Cagliostro. Now we're definitely going to get into Mystery of Momo on another day because that's a whole other can of worms, but after that happens, it does pretty well box office wise, and so they decide to do Castle of Cagliostro, and Miyazaki is put on this movie, and it has like a 7th month production. So they're crunching, or he's crunching, right? Because he's doing the main storyboarding, he's doing the animation, he is pretty much the guy. And character wise, the same version of Lupin that he did back in part 1, he's completely taking that and putting it in this movie. And so we get the full on nicer Lupin, kinder Lupin, more gentlemanly character. You've got like all the other characters are a little bit toned down. Again, bring this image of a nicer thief, this nicer character. Everything that I talked about before about him being inspired by his mom is here. So he releases his movie. It doesn't do pretty well at first, but like retroactively it starts, like people start realizing, yo, this movie's like actually legit. So that happens, it does well. And then after that, part 2 is still rolling around, even though it's nearing its end stages. Miyazaki gets called back to do 2 episodes. Episode 145 called Wings of Death Albatross, and then the last episode, 155, Farewell, O Dearest Lupin. And these 2 have more of that Cagliostro, nice guy Lupin feel, especially that last one, and where he does this meta critique of the part 2 Lupin in the rest of the series by saying it's like a fake Lupin, this, that nature. And all of that happens, and the people who get this episode are on edge on whether they want to release it because of the undertones of what he's saying, but they eventually do it, and it airs as the last episode, and it wraps things up. And that's pretty much the end of Miyazaki's influence on the franchise directly. That's like the last thing he works on, those episodes, and he moves on. They try to bring him back for the part 3 movie, Legend of the Golden Babylon, but he's no. So that's pretty much it. And so you have this kind of thing where everybody is slowly realizing that this movie is fire, and they start to try to copy his character. So let's go ahead and talk about what makes Miyazaki's Lupin unique. What makes it distinct? How can you tell you're dealing with a Miyazaki Lupin? So pretty much what's the face value characteristics of this Lupin is that he's just nice, right? He's a nice guy. He's still a thief. He still steals, but he does it like literally for the love of the game, right? He does it because he enjoys it. You get the sense that he enjoys the intellectual challenge of it all. He enjoys wanting to test himself. It doesn't really matter where you are, who you are. Like Lupin is going to be this kind of guy who can go anywhere he wants to, do whatever he wants. Like freedom is the main thing. Like freedom is the key word here. And so in Miyazaki's work, you can really tell that freedom is something that he's really keying in on. He does whatever he wants. He goes wherever he wants. He eats whatever he wants. He sleeps wherever he wants. He talks to whatever girl he wants to talk to. That's one thing that he keeps his love for women, but it's not the same type of love he had in the part 1 and more of that Mystery of Mamo kind of Osumi and Monkey Punch side, where it's more of like a lust thing. It seems like here he really genuinely cares about the women he's talking to, and he still likes them, he's still attracted to them, but it's more of a appreciation of the social interaction. He likes treating them with respect because he values them, right? He sees them as a treasure that he wants to be in the presence of and enjoy them for who they are. And that's how he approaches the world too. Another thing Monkey Punch said in an interview is that Lupin loves the world. It's like a love letter to the world, and he likes to explore. And you can see that with Monkey Punch, with Miyazaki, where he has this kind of like childish vibe to him, right? So he has this gentlemanly side, this sweet side, where he's capable of truly connecting to people on an emotional level. Even if he's being more reserved and not showing all of his cards, he's still being very respectful and kind. The edge is gone. He's like being like super, super nice. And then you have this concept where he is still a master thief. He still has all the skills, but he wants to see the world. He's using his skills to enjoy life, right? In a kind of childish way, right? He has this kind of like childlike enthusiasm about the world where he's not really taking anything really seriously. He's just vibing out. He's doing his own thing. He's more open with his emotions in that way, but they're portrayed in like an innocent way. And he is also a little bit more willing to cooperate with his partners. Obviously, Jigen is his right-hand man. That's how it's going to be. Goemon is there too, and Fujiko's there sometimes. That's another thing too. Side note, like Fujiko's like completely different. Like she doesn't like backstab or anything like that. And Lupin doesn't really try to take the chances with her that he would take. He doesn't like try to jump on top of her and do what he wants to do. It's more of kind of like a childish, like innocent crush, right? Like innocence really is like what he's going for. Like this kind of heartfelt, noble thief who's really kind, carefree. He's like almost always smiling. He has this vibe to him where he just really cares about the people around him. He's going through life, just living his best life, right? He is pretty much enjoying the world for what it has to offer. In an interview, Miyazaki described his view of Lupin and how it contrasts from Monkey Punch, and he was saying that he viewed Lupin as like this poor boy's son, right? Now, obviously, I think that's more like metaphoric. I don't think that was actually like the story, because in Cagliostro, we can see like bits and pieces of part 1's Lupin where he has that edge. He's stealing for the fun of it. He's in the casino. He's surrounded by women. He's gambling. His tongue is out, which is interesting. He's just like enjoying life. He's being selfish, right? But it gets turned around in the movie and he's like more humble with it. He still flirts with girls. He still enjoys the interaction, but the interaction kind of ends socially. Like he doesn't try to make a move with these women, right? So this is who Lupin is. He's like this carefree, gentleman, fun-loving, always smiling, always vibing out thief who will right the wrongs of the situations that he's involved in, right? Like he always wants to play the hero. He always wants to help out. In part 2, you do see a little bit of that because he has his code where he says to Fujiko one time that he stays away from murder and from honest money, right? So Lupin's not going to rob you if you're a business who has ill-gotten gains, right? But if you are like in that gambling scene and that, oh, my money's not necessarily the purest, but it's my money, Lupin's coming, he's going to hit a lick, right? He's coming for you. He's coming for your pockets, coming for your bank account. You're cooked, right? But if it's like an honest living, he's not going to deal with you. He's going to leave you alone. And you really see that in this version of Lupin, right? He's only stealing from people that he thinks deserves it, right? Because it's like, I'm doing this and I know that I'm a thief and I know that's what I'm good at and I know that's what I enjoy doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to target that at the negative aspects of the world while also enjoying the positive aspects of the world. I think the best place to start is with Monkey Punch, the original author. Monkey Punch did an interview, I think in 1978, where he wanted to do a borderless comic where he wanted the main character to be free to do whatever he wants. So that's what Lupin does. He does whatever he wants, whenever he wants. And that is like super important to him. That's the most important thing to him. Like I cannot stress this enough. When I get around to doing the other versions of the character, that is not going to change. He does whatever he wants, whenever he wants to, and that's that. That's just who he is. Across all the versions, that's who he is. Miyazaki's is no different. Now, Monkey Punch did another interview where he said that Lupin is a lover of the world. Or the comic itself is like a love letter to the world because he's experiencing these things. In the original comics, Lupin describes him as enjoying the finer things in life. He has a taste for the finer things in life, and he loves to experience the world and everything the world has to offer. He treats it like a museum or like a playground, right? Like an exhibit at a museum that he never wants to leave because he's always like seeking to challenge himself. And he expresses that in the way he does in the comic. And we're going to get to that version in another video. But Miyazaki does that too. And I think he does it in more of the way that you would expect. He's very kind, very courteous to people. And I think the reason why is because he genuinely does appreciate everything in life. Because of the fact that at his core, I think Lupin is also an aesthetic kind of person. It's never really stated anywhere, but when you have Monkey Punch's meetings where he says that he enjoys the finer things in life, he likes to steal certain jewels, but he never really keeps them. He likes the challenge of things. He loves women, right? He likes things that take his breath away. He likes things that like make him feel certain things, right? And I think that's at the center of it all. So you have this concept of freedom, right? And then you have this concept of being an aesthetic person, someone who truly appreciates art, right? So you have freedom and you have love of art. These two things are inseparable to his character, right? That's where the respect comes in, because unlike the comic version or the ultimate version, his respect and appreciation for them is what makes him want to give back the things that he steals or respect the women that he's talking to, because he appreciates the art. Now it's, oh, I like this. I like looking at art. I like listening to this. I like eating this. This is a really good experience. So I think that's something that is deeper in him too, because freedom, like I said, freedom is very important to him. This aesthetic love of art and beauty is super integral to his character. Pride in his thieving abilities, I think, is something that he values a lot. He thinks he's the best thief. He's very confident. He's very self-sufficient. He's self-assured, right? He has that self-confidence about him where he thinks that nothing is going to happen to him and he can pretty much get himself out of any situation. He's had his training from his grandpa as like a master thief, and he's like really confident in everything that he does. He can fight well, he can shoot well, he can take on any persona that he wants to. He usually does Zenny, which I think is funny, but he's really good at playing that off. He's really good at doing what he needs to do and being a master thief. And I think that the reason why he likes doing that is, again, it's tied back to the freedom. He wants to do whatever he wants. He wants to take whatever he wants. He wants to experience that, right? But how do you do what you want while not desecrating the beauty of the art pieces or the thing that you're admiring, right? That's like the tension. How do I have what I want while also respecting what I have and not tarnishing it? And I think that concept is probably where the pride in being a thief comes in, because I can do what I want, but I'm going to do it in a way where I don't hurt anybody and I leave everything as it is. And you really see that here with Miyazaki's Lupin, because he does take great lengths to make sure that what he steals, when he steals it, and who he's interacting with remain unharmed. He has this twinkle in his eye when he's doing all this because he really thinks it's a game. Like, I think that Lupin genuinely views life as a game in the sense that he wants to experience all life has to offer because he's excited, right? That he's just being himself. He's being authentic. And one of the other Lupins that we're going to talk about, the Lupin from the Koike movies, that's something that he just directly says to Zenny, right? He cares about authenticity, and that's why he hates the government, because the government is not authentic. That's what he said. Those are his words. So I think that's like here too, right? So to recap, we have this love of freedom. I want to do whatever I want to do. You have this reverence of art, right? And this desire to experience what life has to offer. And out of those two things, he chooses the role of the thief because he can take what he wants and do what he wants without desecrating the art that he's enjoying, without tarnishing the treasure that he's enjoying. He has great pride in his abilities. You can never take that away from him. And he also is authentic in himself. So this is the base of Lupin, right? Now, I think that the best way to cover, because all of that applies to all of the Lupins, right? All of those 3 characteristics applies to all of the Lupins, but it's how they show themselves that's different. Because, for example, in Monkey Punch's Lupin, all of that stuff applies, but it's more selfishly charged, right? I want it, I want that, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna get that, I don't really care. And I really think that Lupin was just using it as a means to an end at that time. Like he says in Cagliostro, he was young, right? He was just doing this because he was enjoying the power trip, right? He was just young. He was pretty much the top dog in the world, like, period. But what Miyazaki does in Castle of Cagliostro is he gives us character development for Lupin, which is something we rarely get. So it's interesting that he does that. And how he does it is he shows a flashback of part where he's stealing whatever he wants. He's surrounded by women and he clearly loves it because his tongue is out. So he likes that. He likes stealing. He has this sinister grin. He's like super prideful. He's like challenging himself. He's pretty much just like, hey, I'm that guy. I'm going to do what I want. You can't stop me. He has that ego about him. He's not necessarily cherishing the treasures yet. He's still in his I'm that guy phase, right? So he tries to rob Cagliostro and it doesn't work and he gets shot in the back by an arrow and he's like critically wounded. He almost dies, right? And what happens is he finds a young Clarice finds him and her dog, right? And so they start to help him nurse him back to health until he can pretty much make his escape. And what's interesting is, why would someone's act of kindness change you like that? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't he just say, oh, I guess I got lucky, I'm gonna go do what I do. And he does forget about it. He says that he forgot about her in the movie. But I think the reason he changes from this selfish, arrogant, like, jerk to someone that we see in Castro where he's kind, where he does like a 180, because number one, in the movie, he says that he forgot to pay her back. And I think what's under that, this is just my speculation based on who he is. Again, freedom is something he loves. He loves freedom. He loves experiencing the finer things in life. He likes beautiful scenes. He likes all that stuff. We know that, right? He likes being independent. He likes being authentic. We know all that stuff. And when you take that and you look at the way he changed from meeting her as a child to like meeting her again as an adult, and how he changes, saying that when he was a kid, he was young. I think that the reason why he did that is because back then he was more selfish with the pleasures that he got. It was a completely self-serving thing. He said in one of the interviews that the key word that he was working with was ennui, E-N-N-U-I. It's a French term which means existential boredom. He was like bored with the world. He was like depressed. He was going through it because he like experienced everything. He was top dog for too long. He was bored. He was super bored. He squeezed everything out of life that he could, and no one could stop him. And because of that, he just got tired of the same cycle of robbing, getting away with it, robbing, getting away with it. They mentioned he was an assassin, so he was killing people, getting away with it. They couldn't stop him. He had a business. He had an empire. He was like the best of the best. He could get any girl that he wanted, and he was bored of it. He was tired of it. And I think with that boredom, the type of infamy that he enjoyed started to become annoying, right? Because it's cool when people are chasing you and it's, oh, you can't catch me, I'm the best of the best. That's fine. But like when you're sick of it and they keep doing it, they don't stop. Zeniga never stops. Like, people just keep hating you. They want to kill you. Fujiko's acting strange. What's going on? Like, all my friends except for Deegan want to kill me. Even he acts shady. Like, I was lucky to turn Goemon, but that's one guy. That gets boring after a while. And it gets like annoying because it's like everyone wants you dead. And I do think that there's that part of him that wants that human connection, because sometimes psychologists will say that if you experience something, the experience is usually magnified when you have someone to share it with. And everyone wanted to kill Lon, he didn't have anyone to share anything with, right? And so that's his mindset. He's like super bored. So he challenges the castle, fails, almost dies, meets Kid Clarice. She starts caring for him. And I think that he liked that kindness. Someone who was caring for him and he didn't have to manipulate her. He didn't have to do anything. I think even in the dubs, he was like, I tried to turn on the charm, but it didn't work. So he was trying to get her to help him the way that he knew how to, but she didn't do it because he charmed her. He did it because she wanted to help. And I think that genuine connection is something that started to change him. He was like, wait a minute, I don't have to be a rude, you know what I'm saying? I don't have to be disgusting, a terrible person to get cared for, right? Because obviously he can do what he wants and he can get what he wants. But with kindness, sometimes people will just give you stuff. And I think he's looking at it in more of a materialistic sense. He is a thief, he can't help it. But I think he's going, wow, like when I live the way that I used to live, I have to constantly watch my back. Nobody wants to help me. There's always something at the end of this. There's always a silver line. Someone always wants to use me. But with Clarice, she showed him that no, some people are kind just to be kind. If you're kind to them, they'll be kind to you. Some people are just like that. Some people just want to help out. And I think that slowly started to change him. Oh, I don't have to do this way. I don't have to be rude here. I can just show kindness. Generally the same thing. Obviously, some people are going to be disrespectful, but I'm pretty sure it's that much worse when you're breaking the law. So generally speaking, people treat you okay when you treat them kindly. So he starts treating other people kindly. He starts being nice to women and they start liking him like even more. Instead of being like attached to him in terms of lust, they start to care about him as a person and starts to probably get a little bit nicer. Goemon, I don't know why Fujiko changed in the universe. I couldn't tell you, but if I were to have to guess, I would probably say that like she probably started feeling some type of way about him not responding in the slimy way he used to. So she starts to like get better. It's like my guess. I don't know. I haven't done the Fujiko video yet. That's coming too. I have a lot of plans. But I think that's what happens. Like the kindness starts to change him. He starts to realize he doesn't have to be a jerk or manipulative to get what he wants. And so he starts to genuinely treat people kindly. And that's when his reputation spikes. Because it's kind of, if you guys know who like Pretty Boy Floyd is back in like the 1930s, John Dillinger, like they're known as gentlemen thieves. They're people who like genuinely care about people. They're just criminals, right? And he's kind of like Lupin. And because they have that notoriety, people like them. People look out for them. There's stories about even like Bonnie and Clyde. They're from Texas, and a lot of people hid them from the cops because they cared about them, right? Same with Pretty Boy Floyd. They cared about him, so they didn't give him up. So Lupin starts to get some of that. People genuinely start to like him. Zenigata starts to team up with him. He starts to trust him. I know this isn't part 6 Lupin, but in part 6, he gets like a recording and someone's, yo, show this to Lupin. And then Zenigata does it without trying to arrest him, right? So I think he's starting to see what a kind life does, and he starts to like those benefits more than the life he used to have. And I think that is what Kid Clarice showed him. Another way to be cared for, another way of life that's less stressful as a thief than just being a jerk and having everybody want to kill you all the time. Now, less people want to kill you, you're respected, the populace respects you, and you're like this famous as well as infamous thief. And even when the police catch you, like they did in part 5, they took his death sentence and turned it into life in prison. I think that's what was going on. I think that's a deeper meaning. So to recap all of that, I think you have this love of freedom. I do what I want. This love of aesthetic pleasures. I like seeing beautiful things, tasting great things, like stuff like that. I like my authenticity. I am who I am, right? I like my individuality. I'm a master thief. And I'm a thief because that's the best way I can interact with all the pleasures I want and keeping their integrity while also being. And after I was shown another way of interacting with people that doesn't make me a target and makes my life worse, now I'm a kind person. And sometimes a psychologist will tell you that if you're depressed, helping people is like the easiest way to get better, right? I think that's what Lupin is having happen underneath the surface. I think he loves freedom, he loves aesthetic pleasure, and he pretty much likes being a good person because it makes his life more easy and more romantic. I think that's the way I look at his character, right? He's someone who cherishes freedom. That's one pillar, right? His love of the world and its beauty is another pillar. His pride as a master thief, that kind of comes from those 2 pillars, is another pillar. And his individuality is another pillar. I think that all of that kind of comes together, and you magnify the love he has for the world because of his kindness, right? And he also learned that through kindness, he can interact with the world, learn more of the world's pleasures, and experience it more without having to deal with the stresses of being a top criminal and people wanting you to die immediately. I think that's the crux of his character. I think that's what I see when I see Cagliostro's Lupin, right? You have these pillars, and then you have this kindness that he has, this genuine love and connection for the world, right? So you have his 4 pillars, and then you have his experience with Clarice that kind of makes him more nice to the world, learning that with kindness, you can experience a lot of what the world has to offer without having to do a lot of these things, right? Like, he still is a criminal, but I think that he does like to steal because he likes the intellectual aspect of it, right? Because freedom is important. And so he likes people challenging his freedom because he likes to have his freedom. He likes to show that he is free, right? He likes to demonstrate that he is free. And I think that's why he likes to rob and steal. It's funny when I say it like that, but he likes to do that because it's his way of reinforcing his ideology. So that's pretty much it. At the end of this, I did want to go and talk about all the times that we see this version of the character, and they're pretty limited. You see it at the second half of part 1. You see it in Castle of Cagliostro, obviously. You see it in episode 145 of part 2, episode 155 of part 2. You see it in the Fuma conspiracy. Miyazaki didn't do this, but the movie is like a 1-to-1 comparison between Cagliostro. Like, they copy the art style, they copy the vibe, they copy everything from it. So you can see that Lupin there. And then from them, they kind of do this like mixing game where they try to like mix and match and put some of Osumi in there, some of Momo in there, some of Cagliostro in there. But I think the last time we really see that undiluted version of Lupin is probably in the Green Jacket Green Jacket Part 5 episode, because that episode was made to be a Miyazaki shout out episode. And in kind of part 5 and part 4, even though they like try to mix all the aspects in there like I was talking about earlier. So I think that's about it. I think I covered everything. That is my read on Cagliostro's Lupin. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and like the video, subscribe. I was gonna say subscribe if you're new, but this is my first video, so you are all new here. So go ahead and subscribe. There is definitely more to come. This was a really nice video. So let me know which version of Lupin do you want to see, or if you want to see another character, and I will talk to you guys soon.